details about the suspected terrorists who planned a mass casualty event at the White House celebration this past weekend. It is a horrific, potentially deadly story. Unbelievable. Meet the man who is urging moms not to abort inconvenient babies like him. And finally, the kangaroo doesn't put up with anything. I think kangaroos are my new favorite pet. Welcome to the Jay Sheldon Show. Happy, what is today? Wednesday, halfway through the week. It is hump day, and we are live on Rumble and YouTube, and great to have you all along for the ride. It's been an interesting week so far, but away we go. We got a lot going on, a lot of stories to talk about, and we'll be doing that over the next hour or less. All right, the faces of evil. Oh, yeah, mega big time. More details have come out about a story you may have heard about, and that is the suspected terrorists who were planning. Fortunately, we got there in time, but they were planning a mass casualty event at the White House. Earlier yesterday, we told you yesterday morning in the show about the horrifying plot to have a mass casualty event at the White House Ultimate Fighting Championship, which was held on the South Lawn. That was Sunday to celebrate Trump's 80th birthday and the nation's 250th. Folks, this was an absolutely sick scheme. Fortunately, the FBI busted it up, and now we are learning more about the mastermind behind it. Federal authorities allege that Michael Allen Thomas of Pinion Hills was one of the conspiracy's primary planners. Prosecutors say he operated under an online alias name, which is Whiskey 6 America. Oh, sounds very military and official, doesn't it? He shared tactical advice with his fellow plotters as they mapped out an assault on the June 14th blockbuster event. On Fox News, Bill Melugin said Thomas has some deeply disturbing views. Thomas admitted to the feds he believes the U.S. government is run by elites who sacrifice and eat children, and deep knowledge of Jeffrey Epstein's crimes that are being, he says, protected by President Trump. He is pictured here with another alleged conspirator, Brian Omar Roa of Cuchapa, California. His alias is Nubelio. Do we have his? Yeah, here is one of the two. I believe this is the first one. This is the first guy. And this one is the Brian Roa. And Michael Thomas. Sorry, that's Michael Thomas. And this one, not either one of them looks like they could, have an IQ above, say, room temperature. Where do we grow these people? Seriously. Where do these people come from? Luckily, these masterminds just were that stupid. Roa told the FBI he was going to travel to Washington, D.C. only as a protester. His family told investigators he warned them that one day they would wake up and find him gone, and that something big would happen in the nation's capital. Roa's cross-country trip ended rather abruptly when the vehicle broke down in Barstow, forced him to return to Southern Cal, and then federal agents later searched his home and seized an AR-style rifle, a Glock 19 handgun, and tactical gear. Isn't that nice? The complaint also references an Instagram story that investigators say show Roa participating in firearms and tactical training. That post, however, is no longer publicly available. As of now, 5 men have been charged, according to the DOJ. They announced charges today against 5 men for the alleged plot to carry out an attack to kill government officials and others attending the UFC Freedom 250 event at the White House. This is among several pictures. That looks like a whole bunch of military equipment. Look at this. All of these backpacks, helmets, goggles. There's the AR style rifle, decked out with an American flag. Very nice. Tactical training by one of the suspects. That's unbelievable. Unbelievable. The Justice Department has charged these 5 men for the alleged plot to carry out an attack, kill government officials and others attending the UFC Freedom 250 event. They did what they do every day to make America safe through quick response and vigilance in investigating, disrupting, and dismantling the alleged plan before it could be carried out. That is Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche. He says, we'll take immediate and aggressive action to identify and prosecute those who incite and plan acts of violence. In a statement, the DOJ said they gleaned information that enabled them to foil the plot from the alleged accomplice, Tyson C. Proper, who is 19 years old, a babe from Danville, Ohio. During the interviews, he allegedly said he planned with others to coordinate an attack against the U.S. government during the UFC event. Members of the group who wanted to participate in the attack began communicating with each other about March. More serious members, including Proper, moved their communications to an encrypted chat app. They planned to fly. Listen to this. Here's the actual plan, what they were planning on doing. This is insane. Entirely doable, but insane. They could, if the FBI had not been involved, they could very easily have pulled this off. They planned to fly small drones that were set with explosives. And you could do this with, a little tiny, little cheap DJI drone. They're not that cheap, but you know what I mean. They're set with explosives on these small drones, fly them over the event, and detonate them over the north side of the UFC arena. And then, as the high-value targets were being evacuated from the premises, the group then would have snipers set up and shoot the people trying to escape from where the explosives went off. Before executing the plan, Proper and other conspirators allegedly planned to rendezvous in Fredericksburg, Virginia. It was, get this, his parents. His parents actually notified the authorities about all of this guy's wackadoodle ideas and activities that led eventually to the undoing of this plot. This, oh man, this is Mr. Proper from Ohio, who has now been arrested for this terrorist attack. And as you can tell, Mr. Proper looks like just the bastion of the community. This is a 250 IQ guy. Oh yeah, take a look. This guy, he's got it going on. Oh yeah. How would you like your daughter to bring that idiot thug thing home? Hi, Mom, Dad, meet my new boyfriend. Can you imagine? 2 others, Daniel Eskridge of Missouri and Nebraskan Adam Alvarez also charged, if they are convicted of conspiracy to commit murder, which is what they're charged with, each one maximum penalty of life in prison and a $250,000 fine. Not that that will really matter because they'll never pay it. You know, it's bad enough that we got to worry about things like some terror attack by Iran or ISIS or their ilk. But to think that these scumball, homegrown Americans wanted to do this to this country is absolutely disgusting. If the allegations are proven, then frankly, life in prison without the possibility of parole sounds just about exactly right to me. Although I am loosening up my opinion, I have always been against the death penalty. I just think we make too many mistakes in our justice system and often apply the death penalty to people who are not worthy of it. I'm starting to, with some of the things going on today, I'm starting to loosen that opinion up a little bit. There are cases. And as I've said before, we currently live in an environment where there are cameras, there is obvious evidence, not AI-generated evidence, but very obvious evidence of someone's murderous rampages. In cases where there is absolute 100% no doubt about it, this person did it, I'm starting to think maybe the death penalty isn't a bad idea at all. These people cannot be rehabilitated after plotting mass murder. There is no rehabilitating these people. Take them out of society. At the moment, our best bet, I think, is life without the possibility of parole. You can sit there, rot, and die in prison, which is exactly what I hate the idea of having to spend money to feed you and give you a cot and a mattress, or as they say, a cot and 3 hots a day. But at least you are out of society, and we don't have to deal with you anymore. Unbelievable, these slime balls. Man. Good morning, Danny. She says, all my Midwesterners stay safe inside today. Another round of destructive storms coming. Really? Oh, my goodness. The middle of the country is getting blasted. God bless. And also, she says, Jay, Mike is not allowed to watch your show yesterday. Mike is her husband. Before we got Ruger, he was pushing for the Belgian Malinois. And I am not equipped to handle that. If you saw the end of yesterday's show, I showed this absolutely amazingly trained Belgian Malinois. It was phenomenal. If you get a chance, check it out. It's the very end story in yesterday's show. Unbelievable. Anyway, yeah, it's not, once they're trained, and they are amazing animals. The training process, however, you need the patience of an absolute saint to get through it. It takes a long time, but worth it in the end? Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. Hey, we did the story yesterday. I think it was yesterday. It might have been Monday, about the baseball players, the Christian baseball players who got targeted. Well, Josh Hawley, we love this congressman. He is on the warpath. And Major League Baseball probably ain't gonna like what may be coming next. The aftermath of the 3 San Francisco Giants players who refused to bend the knee to Pride Night by writing Bible verses on their rainbow-themed hats during Friday's game against the Cubs. Bible verses, mind you, that explained the true symbolism of what the rainbow is all about. God's covenant with Noah and his descendants, and every living creature after the great flood. The verses are Genesis 9:12 through 16. The Monday warnings stated that the writing on the cap, this is from the Major League Baseball morons, it violates our rules and consistent with normal practice. We've warned the players about future violations. And in a follow-up statement, they pretended they weren't issuing the warning because they didn't like the Christian message. Quote, to be clear, this routine verbal warning not to wear the hat in future games is not disciplinary and had absolutely nothing to do with the content of the message, end quote. Yeah, sure. If it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, yeah. As you might imagine, this has absolutely royally pissed off a huge chunk of Major League Baseball's fan base, among them being Senator Josh Hawley. Love the guy. Immediately, Hawley demands answers from the MLB officials and hinted that a public congressional hearing might just be in order to air out all the dirty laundry so their fans can see exactly what they're up to. The leagues claim that it merely forbids writing of any kind on the uniform does not survive a cursory review of the league's recent history. In 2020, MLB itself turned its uniforms and fields into a billboard for political and social messages. It created jersey patches reading Black Lives Matter, United for Change. It authorized BLM to be stenciled onto pitching political slogans on their cleats. And the league went way beyond tolerating speech. It actually designed speech, promoted speech, shoehorned social and political messages into the game, which is, of course, broadcast to millions of fans across the country. And yet, when 3 players added a handful of characters citing the book of Genesis to their ball caps, the league reaches for its rule book. Does not appear to be an isolated incident either. The organization's recent action follows an undercover investigation that revealed an admission from a Washington Nationals executive that a Catholic player on the team was not included in promotional material for the team because of his faith. That executive has since been fired, but not before the anti-Christian bigotry was exposed. The freedom to live out one's faith does not end at the ballpark gate, Senator Hawley said. Americans of every creed are entitled to confidence that the institutions of our national pastime will not single out religious expression for punishment while celebrating messages of the league's own choosing. I trust, he says, the league shares that commitment, and I look forward to your prompt reply. And he was not the only prominent GOP figure to weigh in on this. J.D. Vance, our vice president, had his response. He said, Trump won. We don't have to do this anymore. And then posted the MLB warns giant pitchers who wrote Bible verses on caps during Pride Night. Florida Attorney General James Althmeyer, he also went off. On X, he posted, MLB execs had no issue with acts of protest while cities were burned down by left-wing mobs in 2020. In fact, MLB changed the rules to allow more left-wing messages. And meanwhile, Christians are singled out and targeted for taking part in a religious protest. Unbelievable. That, the words of Attorney General James Althmeyer from Florida. Now, From what I can see, attendance at MLB games has actually been bouncing back over the last 4 years after they were on a huge decline. And they're not going to like Hawley's strong insinuation that he's about to haul them into a Senate committee hearing, especially with America's 250 celebration underway. You know, there's an old saying about baseball being as American as apple pie. You can bet your sweet bippy that MLB is going to try and figure its way out of a rather no-win situation at this point. Try to avoid any more bad publicity. The LGBTQ alphabet mafia changing the rule about handwritten affixed personal messages for further anger of a very ticked off United States senator. They need to figure out which side of this fence they're going to fall on. They need to do it quick. And I think they already know what that answer is, even if they don't like it. Good morning, Marilyn. God bless. Great to have you along for the ride. Oh, here's a lovely one. A piece of Antifa terrorist scum has been caught on camera dumping buckets of toxic Georgia algae into our now beautiful Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool at 3 o'clock in the morning. These people, it is causing millions of dollars in damage. That person is now facing 10 years in prison if they don't rat out who funded this disgusting attack. These radical pieces of crap have hit a new low, my friends. U.S. Park Police caught 2 Antifa operatives on camera driving a pickup truck into the National Mall in the middle of the night, 3 o'clock in the morning, and dumping multiple buckets of an extremely aggressive form of algae into the reflecting pool. Pool is now a disgusting green mess. The damage is already in the millions. National Mall, USPP Captain Joseph Barron has these 2 scumball morons in custody, and they're not cooperating yet. But this is one of those instances. They are on camera doing exactly what they've been accused of doing. There is no doubt they've done it. They either cooperate or they look at 10 years in prison. They have caused millions in damage, not to mention just the fact that dumping this algae into the reflecting pool itself is just beyond belief. These domestic terrorists thought they could vandalize one of America's most sacred sites and get away with it. Well, guess what, Holes? You're wrong. This is what Antifa really is. This is what it's all about. Not mostly peaceful protests, but actual criminals who hate this country. So much so, they will poison the reflecting pool at 3 o'clock in the morning, in the middle of the night, in the dark. Do we have the picture? We do. Here is the aftermath of what went on after they dumped this toxic green Georgia algae into our reflecting. Look at that. That's a still from the camera that caught the suspects on video. Absolutely unbelievable. Unbelievable. Put them away. Charge them. Or if you can get them to cooperate, let us know who funded you. We'll talk a deal. But that's the only way we'll talk a deal. Otherwise, 10 years. Goodbye. Bye. Unbelievable. We need more companies and people who support this country. We need more Christian conservative companies. And where you get your mobile service, that counts. It really, really does. Great deals. Your first month free if you use our link with Patriot Mobile.
When you choose Patriot Mobile, you're not just picking a wireless provider. You're choosing a company that shares your values. It's easy to switch, and you can keep your number, your phone, and most importantly, your values. With Patriot Mobile, you get the power of nationwide coverage on all 3 major networks. That means wherever life takes you, we've got you covered on the same reliable networks you already know and trust. And when you need us, we're here for you right here at home. Our customer service is 100% US-based because we believe that support should come from people who understand you and your values. At Patriot Mobile, you're not just another call, you're a priority. In today's world, where you spend your money matters more than ever. Every dollar is a vote for the kind of future you want to build. Join the thousands of Americans making a difference with every call, every text, and every connection. Choose a company that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.
Yeah, Patriot Mobile, like I said, it is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. Not one penny of your money goes to any lefty causes or institutions. They are all about the right to life, the First and Second Amendment. They support all of our first responders. It is a fantastic company, and their U.S.-based customer service folks, the best on the planet. They're based right here. They speak your language, and they're not paid in a way that encourages them to upgrade you into something that doesn't fit your budget. Their whole focus is to try and get you into a plan that will fit your budget, save you money, and make sure that you've got the best plan available. It is, you keep your phone, you keep your phone number, everything is the same. You're just paying money to a company that supports our values. PatriotMobile.com/J, J-A-Y, my first name. Just use that link, sign up. If you need help, get with their customer service folks. We've had plenty of our viewers and listeners who have done it. They've had to deal with customer service, and they report 5-star incredible treatment. They love these guys. If you use our link and get signed up, your first month is on me. Oh, yeah, I'm paying your first month's bill with PatriotMobile.com/J. Do it today. Don't spend another dime on the left. Okay? Thank you, Patriot Mobile. All right. Massachusetts judge has ordered Trump to put the lefty propaganda back up in the national parks. Here we freaking go again. 63-page ruling. And Kelly did not hide her political activism or her eagerness to help promote the woke agenda against taxpayer-funded national parks. Friday, a federal judge ordered Trump to reinstate national park signs that promote left-wing talking points about things like bullshit climate change, which we all know is pure gaslighting crap, condemnation of American historical figures, trying to rewrite history, and LGBT ideology after the admin ordered that these kind of signs and posts around our national parks, get rid of them. No surprise here, Biden appointed Judge Angel Kelly from Massachusetts, we've heard her name before. She ordered the signs and other materials be restored by July 3rd, the day before our 250th birthday. Trump began removing these things back in March of 2025, more than a year ago, an executive order titled Restoring Truth and Sanity to American History. That order criticizes the Biden admin for its corrosive ideology, characterizes the U.S. as inherently racist, sexist, oppressive, otherwise irredeemably flawed. The order directed the Department of Interior to ensure that markers and memorials overseen by the DOI do not contain descriptions, depictions, or other content that inappropriate disparage Americans past or living. A bunch of organizations, including the National Parks Conservation Association, American Association for State and Local History, well, they brought a lawsuit to counter these efforts, which they characterized as the erasure of American history and science. Democracy Forward, a lefty-aligned legal organization, represented those clients. Basically, the ruling identifies the signage removed after Trump's order, including parts of the exhibit at the Grand Canyon National Park, which portrayed settlers, cattle ranchers, and tourists as negatively impacting the land for their own benefit. You know, take these bumbling freaking idiots and send them back into the 1800s, early 1800s, when pioneers, settlers, were out making their way towards the West, facing every hardship you could. Let them survive one freaking hour under those conditions. They'd be clutching their pearls and yanking out their purple and blue hair in a minute, in 60 seconds. And yet, this idiot masked judge, Biden appointed, Ms. Kelly, orders all of this bullshit put back into the national parks. Maryland, they're disgusting. Can't wait till they're all caught and jailed. I assume you're talking about the morons from Antifa who desecrated our reflecting pool. You're right. Cannot wait till every last one of them is behind bars, which is exactly where they deserve to be. I got a story about a little guy, not so little. The man who is urging moms not to abort inconvenient babies because he was one. Ryan Baumberger knows firsthand what it means to be the inconvenient life. And yet, he is the counter-argument to this death culture we seem to have in this country lately. He was conceived in rape, yet his mother chose life. While serving in the military, Baumberger's mom, Sharon, was raped and refused an abortion. Instead, she put her son up for adoption, a decision Baumberger said that's caused beautiful generational reverberations. The abortion industry very often will use the horrible circumstances surrounding Baumberger's conception to try and justify abortion. Abortion from rape makes up about 1% of cases. 1%. And yet, very often, the left uses rape to show why the sprawling abortion industry has to exist. Now, as a child of rape, Ryan knows firsthand what it means to be the inconvenient life. Matt Kittle said in an interview with Baumberger on the Vicky McKenna show, iHeartRadio, but Baumberger's mom chose life, allowing her son to grow into who he is today. He is the counter-argument to the death culture in America. In this interview, Baumberger said he was conceived in rape, but adopted in love. His adoptive parents, Henry and Andrea, raised him, their 2 biological kids, 10 other adopted children. Man, what an amazing couple, huh? 10 adopted children. Huge Christian household of 15 people. Wow. Baumberger today is a father, a husband, co-founder of Pro-Life Radiance Foundation, Emmy Award-winning creator, public speaker, writer, author. He published his autobiography, which was Should Have Been Aborted, along with a documentary back in May, just a month ago. The last chapter of his book details the experience that inspired him to write it when he finally met his biological family. For years, Baumberger searched for his biological mom, only to find that, sadly, she had passed away. But he did find his biological aunt and other members of his extended family, and they wanted to meet me, he said. They wanted to know what happened to me, which is not the narrative the mainstream media ever wants to tell, because it shreds their radical pro-abortion story that the only answer to something unplanned is abortion, abortion, abortion. But there's another side to the story. Although Baumberger has a rather impressive story, even if he says, I hadn't achieved anything in my life, I still have equal and inherent worth. He mentioned in the interview that he grew up with siblings who had various disabilities, close friends with Down syndrome. And the idea that your perceived level of ability gives you worth is absolute nonsense. It's very eugenic, racist, elitist pseudoscience, and boy, is it ever. He sees eugenics recently promoted in the mainstream media. YouTuber Jesse Ridgway, who posted on X earlier this month to explain why he had aborted his child. I brought you that story. He got a diagnosis of Down syndrome. Ridgway believed his child would be too dependent on others. Didn't realize how rough Down syndrome is for the child, let alone the family. What absolute bullshit. To Baumberger, Ridgway's post actually states that those with disabilities don't have equal worth. He said in this interview, it's very eugenics mindset, saying you can be well born, you can be perfect. Well, no one is perfect. According to Ridgway, the child would not be dependent. All of us are burdened to somebody. We're not self-sufficient from conception. We're always dependent on others in some way, shape, or form, he said. And man, is he right. The Ridgways learned their child could have Down syndrome by taking a prenatal test. And while these tests are a valid and pro-life tool, should be used to allow families to medically and emotionally prepare for a child who has that diagnosis. It has been hijacked by the pro abortion eugenic mindset to basically kill anybody deemed defective or unfit. In Iceland, I think I told you this when I did the Ridgway story, 85% of women who choose to get pregnant and have prenatal testing, almost 100% of women who hear their child may have Down syndrome get an abortion. 100%. Now, here in America, that rate for abortion, for the possibility of your child having Down syndrome, it's about between 67 and 85%. Still completely too high. It should be zero. Sadly, it's not. Baumberger urges parents who learn their child may have Down syndrome to consider alternatives to ending the life of your unborn child because he or she doesn't fit your perception of what perfection is. It ain't gonna be perfect, no matter what. Rejects Ridgway's selfish mistake to abort his baby, victimize himself online when the real victim was his unborn child that they decided to destroy because he or she had a disability. We live in an awful, awful world. Danny, I just thought of those YouTubers today as I read the results of my little girl. I prayed everything was okay, but not once thought of aborting her if it wasn't, rather. I saw her Monday moving around, and yes, everything is okay, and she's thriving. But as I opened the results, I immediately thought, those monsters. Keep us up to date, Danny. We're so happy for you. We really are. What else we got going on? Hey, I'll tell you what. Let's check in with our old pal, Nicolas Maduro. Haven't heard from him in a while, huh? Imagine one day you're parading around, pretending to be the president of an important oil-rich South American nation. You're living a lavish life. Everyone around you starves or gets locked up for daring to complain. The most powerful country in the world is threatening your very existence. And what are you doing? You're mocking it. Dancing to a techno song made up of your own broken English. No crazy wars, peace forever. Yes, peace. A few days later, the joke's on you, pal. The U.S. military sweeps in, grabs your ass out of bed, flies you to the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, and you sit there to this very day. That was Nicolas Maduro, December 31st, 2025, getting ready to ring in the new year. Here he is celebrating the new year. Oh, yeah. Isn't that nice? Freaking idiot. And then just to contrast, here he is a few days later, January 3rd of 2026. Hey, Nikki, baby. Good night. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you too, Putz. It's been about 5.5 months, and I still get a big laugh thinking about how much his life changed in about 4 days. Rightfully so. So I'm going through the news today, and I see an update on what is going on in Maduro's case. Made me a little bit nostalgic, I think. For those of you who were with us for a while watching the show, you may remember I did a Maduro update often. Cuba, some other countries taking up a lot of time and attention, but just a few Maduro updates for old time's sake. Cuba, first up, rather, people called the Brooklyn Detention Center hell on earth. While the conditions are nothing compared to the torture center in Venezuela, where Maduro's regime held political prisoners, they're not exactly a place where you might want to spend a whole lot of time. You don't really want to hang out there. One prison consultant said it was in a state of total neglect, underfunded, and understaffed. This is the Brooklyn Detention Center, where Maduro is. It's reportedly hard to heat, hard to cool, suffers from severe rodent infestation, and a complete lack of medical care. Well, Maduro himself says to be taking it very hard. In March, fellow prisoners' lawyers suggested that the former dictator would shout out in the middle of the night, "I am the president of Venezuela! Tell my country I've been kidnapped and I'm being mistreated." He would also supposedly bang on the cell door at night and beg people to get messages to his family. Not a ton of exciting news about the case, though. No trial date set. Some say it could be 18 months or more before that happens. Got a hint of news yesterday actually. Maduro's next court appearance most likely delayed until July 22nd. The U.S. Attorney's Office for Southern District of New York asked for the delay, and Maduro's defense has consented. So, it's on hold again, and we don't really care because you're the scum of the earth, and you're exactly where you deserve to be. Hey, let me just have a sip before I tell you about it. That is good coffee. And that is Blackout Coffee. Blackout Coffee is an American company. They work with local co-ops and American farmers to grow the best beans on the planet. They pick only the top 80% of the beans, 80 and above on a 100-point scale. They roast your beans only after you order. And if you can't grind the whole beans they'll send you, you can option to have them ground for you with Blackout Coffee. Absolutely amazing company that is all about our First and Second Amendment, the right to life, all the things we believe in, they believe in. They have a way where you can actually, for every bag you buy, it goes to sending coffee to our troops stationed overseas. Fantastic deal for these guys. They are always getting coffee. You can read all about it at their website. Down there in the description, you will see, to pull that menu down, you'll see Blackout Coffee. Head over to using that link, and you'll get 20% off your first order with the code J20, JAY20, and enjoy a bag. They've got flavors, unbelievable flavors. Cold brew, yes, they do coffee pods, instant. It's all there. Check it out. The best coffee on the planet. Rich, bold, full-flavored coffee. Never, ever bitter. Blackout Coffee, check them out. They've been with us a long time, and we really appreciate those guys over there at Blackout Coffee. Thanks, John Santos and the gang at Blackout. You're doing great, and we love having you as a part of this show. All right, you may have seen it already, but I'm going to tell you about it again because it's worth laughing. Vice President Vance appeared on The View. Now, it takes a set of cojones to even walk into the Witches of Eastwick on that panel. But if you wanted a showdown, that ain't JD's style. He will tear apart your talking points, but with absolutely graceful brutality. This man knows how to play the game. From the economy to Epstein, the witches of the daytime show tried to trip up the Ohio Republican, and that fell flat on its face. The man, like President Trump, has got a great sense of humor, and yet some stuff is getting tired, like why he went from being an anti-Trump Republican to a MAGA supporter. He also set the record straight on affordability, too, even when this episode got a little contentious, like Sonny Hawson claiming that Black history is being erased. Handled like an adult, Vance did very, very well. Liberal America, so you see, Liberal America, you can have conversations with folks of differing views without trying to assassinate folks and commit acts of domestic terrorism. Amazing to see, isn't it? What? No sound? All right, hold on. Let me see if I can fix this.
Inflation's up, wages are down, gas prices are starting to drop at news of this Iran deal, which we will get to.
Sure.
What can you say to voters who trusted you to lower costs on day one, and will they be satisfied by November?
Well, I think that's ultimately up to the voters, right? I think voters have every right to expect as much as possible out of their elected representatives. We certainly know that we were elected on a number of mandates. One was to close the border, which I think we've done successfully, exceeded expectations there. Number two was to lower prices, and there's a lot of work to do, in large part because of what's happened over the last few months in the Middle East. But as you said, oil, which got up to $120 a barrel, now is at $80 a barrel. That's going to be reflected in lower fuel, lower food, lower energy prices. But there's a lot more work to do. The thing that I'm proudest about most, because, as some of you may know, I grew up in one of these towns that was forgotten by the leaders in Washington of both parties, is that you're seeing, that's Middletown, Ohio. That's my hometown in southwestern Ohio. It was a proud steel town. I was raised by a grandfather who was a union steel worker, is that those jobs disappeared. Those factories closed down. The thing that I'm most excited about is you do see a large amount of capital investment coming into our country. Factories being built, construction jobs are way up, manufacturing jobs are starting to catch up. So there's a lot more work to do. I think that we're making progress, but ultimately we're going to make our pitch to the voters in November, and they're the ones who get to decide whether we've done a good job or not. And that's
there you go. We get to make our pitch, and they're the ones to decide. Well, they were hoping to get a rise out of J.D. Vance with the questions about Epstein, but instead, as J.D. Vance does, he set the record straight very calmly. Basically said, don't believe everything you read in the newspapers. Take a listen.
Mr. Vice President, according to a new report from the New York Times, you were the leading voice behind the scenes to release the Epstein files, and we applaud you for that. And you warned top officials, including top DOJ officials, at strategy meetings taking place inside the Situation Room. We understand that there are tapes of those meetings, that this was a huge problem for the base. The report says you even floated having Tucker Carlson interview Ghislaine Maxwell to clear the president's name, but you were rebuffed by your people. Why?
Well, I'd say, first of all, don't believe everything that you read in any newspaper, whether it's a right-leaning paper or a left-leaning paper, because as you guys know, well, there are things that are true, things that are false, and things that are totally missing context. Well, here's what I'll say. So, number one, I am, frankly, kind of a conspiracy theory on the Epstein stuff, and that story says that that's one of the things that's true, is that some people called me a conspiracy theory on the Epstein stuff. And I love Susie, but absolutely, she thinks I'm a conspiracy theorist on the Epstein stuff, because I think that it's crazy that you had this guy who is clearly a sex predator who is hanging out with a lot of very wealthy and powerful people. Like, that really bothered me. I don't know what's there, of course. Nobody knows exactly what happened unless you were there, but that really bothered me, and I wanted to have full transparency. What I disagree with is the idea that the White House wasn't committed to full transparency. We have to remember, like, I was inside the room when some of these decisions were made. The Epstein Files Transparency Act, the one that the president signed, the one that led to all these files that we're seeing, the emails. By the way, again, sorry, do I have to defend my boss? I know you guys don't always appreciate this, but, you know, one of the things you see in the Epstein emails is that Jeffrey Epstein hated Donald Trump, and that Donald Trump literally reported Jeffrey Epstein to the police. That's one of the things that came out of these files.
They were best friends for about a decade. And remember, he signed that Transparency Act under duress when some Republican women, congresswomen like Lauren Boebert, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, did not give in to his pressure of not signing. He brought Lauren Boebert into the Situation Room to pressure her into caving on not voting for that bill.
So let me respond to that. So
that's all true.
Let me respond to that. So number one is, yes, Donald Trump, and he said this, he knew Jeffrey Epstein back in the 1980s. He also threw Jeffrey Epstein out of his club when he found out he was a creep and reported him to the police. That's something that the media often misses when it reports the story. They tell the fact that they knew each other in the 80s, which the president himself admits. They ignore the fact that he narked on him to the police and led ultimately to JeffreyEpstein's downfall. To that point, Anna, you know the Republican Party. Well, it's one of the things that led to law enforcement investigation. But on the point that you made,
it was allegedly over a real estate deal that they got into a fight over.
But the email says actually
they didn't just know each other. Let's just be truthful and transparent here. They didn't just know each other. They were incredibly close friends.
He reported him to the police. That's what I'm saying. That is objective. That is objectively true. But Anna made another point that I think I would be if I may. Because Anna made a very important point. This question about, did Donald Trump release these files only under duress from Republicans? And Anna, you know the Republican Party probably better than I do. The idea that Donald Trump runs around afraid of Republican congressmen as opposed to the other way around is kind of crazy.
Well, it was a bipartisan, it was Republicans and Democrats.
But because the Republicans control the House and the Senate, particularly the Senate, you need the Republican sign-off. What the president did is, look, I will say this. Again, I was in there in the meetings. He was very frustrated that the Democrats were making this about him when he's like, look, I threw the guy out of my club. I am the guy who reported him to the police, or one of the people who reported him to the police. The president was frustrated about that, absolutely. But he eventually came to say, you know what? Let's just get everything out there. Let's have this out in the public. And he actually called the senators. I was there. He called the senators and said, you know what? Pass this bill, I'll sign it. And that was.
And that was that. Long cut, I know, but well worth it. So JD, as JD does, held himself up very, very well. Very, very well. All right. I want these women. I want to line these women up and just take back of my hand to all their faces as I walk back and forth. The way he tells the facts, and they try to talk over him with their side. Yeah, I know. That's a comment from Danny. Oh, man. All right. I want a kangaroo as my new pet. Okay, one last story before we go. This, I assume, is from Australia, I think. This is a kangaroo and a cop who is trying to move the kangaroo to some place the kangaroo doesn't want to go. And as you will see in this particular video, kangaroos do what kangaroos do.
Bro's ready to race!
Easy, mate. Get off the track.
Oh!
No! Bro lost the Grand Prix! Nah, the Roo won the championship.
The cop was okay. Nobody got hurt. Got a little wet and muddy. But that is what a kangaroo does. Doesn't want to move? It ain't going to move. All right, folks. Thank you so much for popping by. Please, if you're watching us on Rumble, hit the follow button. On YouTube, hit the subscribe button. It's all free. Hit up our sponsors. Make a donation. You'll see that in the description under our PayPal link, and help to support the show. Keep the lights on. Keep things going around here. We really appreciate it. We love you guys. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, and we will see you right back here again tomorrow.